Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit of the WoW podcast, Blue Please on CynicalBrit.com. Now, before I go into a full-on heroic mode, I thought it was a good idea to complete all of the normal dungeons. There was one remaining, it's this one right here. It's quite pretty, isn't it? I call this the frame rate killer, because this area smashes my frame rate into tiny bits. I was lucky to even get that intro right there without it stuttering all over the place. This is the lost city of the Tol'vir. Now, it's supposed to be a 5-boss instance, we think. It's kind of weird. Some things in here are still bugged. To start with, you do have these two quests. One of these is bugged. Annoyingly enough, it's the one with the really nice cloth shoulders. That one has nothing I can use. That one works just fine. The other one is go kill the end boss, which seems simple enough, right? Yeah, it is, absolutely. It's got these delicious shoulder pads, and you don't get the credit. It just doesn't work. So here's what's weird. The dungeon shows 4 bosses, but I'm fairly sure there's actually 5, because there is something to the bottom right there. You see there's a boss there. There's actually another one, as far as I can tell, but I'll show you that when it comes to it. It's a little bit weird. The Pygmies are down there, so those of you entertained by the Pygmies should like that quite a lot. Aside from that, this is a pretty short instance. The run took us, including downtime, about 30 minutes, give or take. Obviously, this is sped up to 200% as of normal, and editing will be applied when necessary. As regards to the trash pulls, there's not too much you have to worry about here. We've got a lot of CC. You don't need this much CC. Arguably, you don't need any. You know, 1 is nice, but in reality, you're going to be fighting about 3 to 4 mobs, and you're also going to be fighting a non-elite most of the time. These Tol'vir have a selection of pets. There's a lot of trappers and hunter-style mobs that will come along with these birds, and there's crocodiles, and I believe there's camels in here as well. They're not battle camels, as much as you might hope that they are. They're not brought in to fight you, but it's very easy to aggro large, angry camels at times in this instance. And you'll also notice that it is outdoors. How many outdoors instances have we had? Not all that many. The Vortex Pinnacle kind of counts. The rest of them, nope. All indoors. So this is your Zuldrak, as it were. As regards to doing the quest, you'll notice that there are these captains. They're kind of like mini-bosses, but they do nothing at all in normal mode. But you do have to go out of your way to kill them. There's one on this side, and there's one on the other side. So you're going to have to kill excess trash if you want to complete the quest. Aside from that, you've just got to kill the boss, which is not hard. The boss is actually right around the corner, so we clean out a little bit of trash and we go there. As regards to how much trash there is in this dungeon, not too much, actually. I think they've got the balance pretty much bang on perfect with it. It doesn't take an awful lot of time to clear out. The trash is not hard in any way, shape, or form. This is certainly one of the easier instances. There are a couple of bosses that do have some interesting abilities, but we didn't really encounter anything that could be considered challenging. Bear in mind, at this point, we're not at gear level 333 yet, but we're definitely getting there. That's what we were aiming to do here, aside from filming. We wanted to get some gear. Sadly, we didn't really manage a lot of it. No cloth dropped, but there you go. This is around the level of gear you would be expected to have in order to do this normal mode dungeon, since it is a level 85. Ergo, its sole practical purpose is to gear you up for heroics, and then, of course, in turn, raiding. This is the first boss. What does he do? He drops mines all over the place. Now, these mines have a deceptively large area of effect, so you're going to have to be a little bit careful there. So he'll start popping mines up all over the place, as you'll see very shortly. He throws them out there. You try and move away. If you're not careful, you will get hit by them. The thing is that unless you get hit by multiple mines, you're not going to die from it. You saw the amount of damage it did there. He will also do a shockwave, which fires out in 3 different directions. You'll see the dust there. He'll hit you with that, which will do damage, and then he'll hit you again with a sort of earth pound that follows it up. It's not hard to avoid. You can see it coming, just sort of move into those, I'd say quadrants, but that wouldn't be accurate, considering there's 3 of them. You know what I'm talking about. I would say tridents, but that definitely wouldn't be accurate. It's a nice little cloak, nonetheless. Very good indeed. That's about it. That's all he does, so not too much to worry about. There's also an interesting bug in this place that you might notice. The troll that we have with us, Frenza, seems to be in the throes of rapture. Something about this dungeon causes various characters to get stuck in different poses, as you'll see as we go along. Definitely not intended. As regards to how this place looks, It's pretty awesome. I've flown over it before. You've seen me fly over it before, I believe, and it was empty. Obviously, it's like flying over Zuldrak or flying over Zul'Gurub. You can see the layout, but you can't see exactly what's in it at the time. I've always found that a little bit odd, honestly. It's jarring in comparison to, say, going into a cave where you definitely can't see what's in it. It's like, I'm flying over this, and I know it's there, and I can even walk into it, but suddenly, if I go through the magical purple portal, it's full of evil things that want to kill me and eat my skin. I know the purpose of it in gameplay, and I know it's a ridiculous complaint to have. It's just a personal pet peeve of mine. I just find it weird. Now, on our way to the second boss, and we will go through the infamous Pygmy area. Yes, we will. Everyone's skating all over the place. What is the troll doing? Nobody knows. A lot of this trash can be AoE'd, honestly. You don't need to worry about too many of the abilities. The Shadowcasters will bring down a meteor, which does bare minimum damage. That's honestly about it. The trash is not what I would call inspired on normal mode. I've been told that it's fairly reasonable on heroic, but right now it's horrendously buggy. Even the normal mode is quite buggy, and the heroic mode sort of multiplies that, cubed perhaps. Whatever the case, it's a nice dungeon to look at, and it doesn't take too long, and bear in mind, of course, on normal mode, at least you're not going to be going through here too many times. Go through here once or twice, maybe, to try and get a little bit of gear. Now, this guy is interesting, to say the least, as are the things that you see to the left and right there. Now, we fight this guy for a little bit, and he disappears in a puff of smoke. And he goes to the boss, which is down there, Lockmaw. And these things are the best mobs in the game. This is like the best thing that Blizzard has ever done. They stack 3 Pygmies on top of each other, and they each have independently casting abilities. It is the best thing. It's like Mecha Pygmy. It's like, say, Mimiron in Pygmy form. In fact, I'd like to see them all join up into some giant Pygmy cyber dinosaur thing. Why cyber dinosaur? Because everything's better with dinosaurs, as it is better with kittens. Kitten dinosaurs. I'm a genius! But yeah, those are awesome. Absolutely fantastic. Now, what does Lockmaw do? Well, he crit errors out your client and crashes the entire server. I am not joking either. This is what actually happens here. We end up getting crit errored, we end up all crashing out of the server, and we end up going back in here. Yeah. Let's just skip that, shall we? This fight might remind you of the Panther boss in Zul'Gurub, and he is mostly an ad-intensive fight. He does have a Dusty Tail Swipe ability, which obviously is not very pleasant. You don't want to stand in it. He will summon a bunch of ads, and of course, Arg will come along as well. They will target a particular member of your party, and they will apply a stacking debuff. They cannot be unaggroed from that person. You see the red arrow there? They're all coming to bite me. They start stacking this debuff, which is not all that pleasant. You have to AoE and kill them very quickly, because that debuff will eventually kill you if you just sit there. Aside from that, that's really it. Arrow will do minor range damage, and then he'll reappear here. He brings some friends with him, as you can see. He seems to be a little bit surprised that we killed the crocodile. Now, you're supposed to be able to kill this guy, because he says, I've got the treasure, blah, blah, blah. You're supposed to be able to attack him and fight him. You can't. He's bugged out. He will not die. You can get him down to 1 HP, and that's it. And he also hits like a truck, so I assume he is actually the 5th boss, but you can't do anything with him right now. Obviously, in the live game, that should be fixed, and it'll get you your 5th boss, and you can finally kill the little pygmy bastard. Right, back to trash pulls. I love the Tol'vir style of architecture, I do. It's really, really great. I do wax lyrical an awful lot about the architecture in Cataclysm. That's because most of it's really, really good. It is. I mean, think of the places within Wrath of the Lich King. There are some places that inspire you in terms of architecture. I mean, Icecrown would be a good example, and the Mordor-style stuff. Some of the stuff in Storm Peaks is kind of neat, but aside from that, you don't really see an awful lot of civilization. It's a lot of, I'd say, outlands, and not meaning outlands, of course. Just wasteland with generally small encampments, and Uldum's like a fully thriving area. Even Twilight Highlands has quite a lot of unique stuff that you haven't seen before. And of course, Mount Hyjal and Vashj'ir, beyond anything, is fantastic, and Deepholm is totally different. So even though you've only got these 5 new areas, you've got so much more variety within those 5 areas than you did in Wrath or in even the Burning Crusade, which was pretty good in terms of variety. And we had Red Sandy Place, we had Lol Mushrooms Place, we had Floaty Islands Place. We had glowy purple place. Yeah, it was pretty good. But I think they've done a fantastic job of providing a very unique theme to each zone here, and really making it feel like you're transitioning from one area to another, and it's completely different to the last. Good stuff. I'm not talking about this trash because there's nothing to say. They don't do anything. There's no ability here that you ever have to worry about. We were not threatened in here in any way, shape, or form, and, you know, we've got a pretty good group. We're not even on vent for this, as you can see. We're spamming chat a lot. We're not even really paying attention. It's kind of annoying that it's one of those instances that falls into that trap. I mean, Throne of Tides didn't. Blackrock Caverns didn't. Stonecourt, to some degree, didn't. Grim Batol certainly didn't, but then apparently they went on and nerfed it, which I found to be highly upsetting. It's like, look, you're giving me a level 85 dungeon. I should be competent enough by now to handle a couple of wipes. There's been a lot of complaining and whining in various areas after I released the Wipeathon video, and I'll freely admit I'm not the best player at all. I screwed up a lot in that video, I really did. Not as much as the majority of players would. And if you've ever been in a pug, you know exactly how much people can totally screw up and do really dumb things. Missing cooldowns, missing procs, that's bad play. I need practice, I need to get back into it. I haven't raided since April. I'm rusty, and I'm not going to blame it. I should play better, and I always aspire to play better, and honestly, I don't think I played as well as I did in TBC. But then you got to bear in mind that all of TBC was pretty much, you can't really suck here. You're not allowed. Whereas Wrath was, well, a lot of it you can suck here, and it doesn't really punish you for it, and as much as I don't really want to blame it, because there are other raiding guilds and other raiders that have managed to keep to their peak of skill, and they've stayed skill capped, and they don't make mistakes and things like that, the content does have something to do with it. It does make you lazy. It does give you a bad attitude. And I think the only thing that really matters is that you always strive to get better and better and better, and you can accept your failures and not always make excuses for them. There's always a variety of factors involved in it, but that doesn't mean that, say, easy content in Wrath is the only reason that I'm missing procs and not doing as much damage as I should be in, say, some of my Cataclysm dungeon videos. I've got to be responsible. I've got to take responsibility for not being as good as I should be. The point is, I don't want the game nerfed down to my level. I want to raise myself to the level of the game. And that's the difference between me playing in a subpar manner and somebody who cries for nerfs playing in a subpar manner. I think one of those is the correct way to play games, and one of them isn't. Like I said in a recent thread, why play a game that you can't lose? Now, what does this little fella do? Well, he's got this sunbeam thing, an ion cannon by the looks of it. If you stand in that for the entire duration, you will probably die. Why you would stand in it for the entire duration, one has to wonder. Now, what he does is he'll pull you in and he'll do something called repentance, which rips your soul from your body. And you've got an ad that you have to kill. You are constantly taking damage in this state. Obviously, you can see about 2,500 per tick, which is not a huge amount, really. The healer's not having too much of a problem. DPS the ad down. Ad doesn't seem to really do anything. Then you break out of that, and you're right back into it. However, I think there is an aggro reset there. So, as you can see, our mage managed to pull aggro and got splattered. He was also a little bit unlucky because he spawned right under a sunbeam, but hey, there you go. Aside from that, that's all that boss will really do. It's kind of interesting. I want to see how they vary that up in Heroic. I think that mechanic could work really well. Otherwise, it's all he really does, and it does take a little bit too long to kill him because obviously we're lacking our main DPS, but hey, there you go. Once you kill this guy, things start to get a little bit interesting because the instance itself changes. Gets, well, a little bit grey and grim. Wind all over the place, rain. It's actually really neat because you can look outside of the Lost City while you're on the roof and have a look around at the various different areas, and things are going to look very unusual. So we will do that during this fight so you can have a look at it. This is the last boss of the instance, and he is summoned once you kill everyone else. You take the little wind tunnel thing to get up onto the roof, as opposed to using a flying mount, which you cannot do in this area. What does he do? Well, he seems to be a bit broken right now because he doesn't do an awful lot at all. He gets the shield, which is supposed to provide a massive amount of spell deflection. And it doesn't work, from what I can tell. I've been deflected maybe once. And he also summons a bunch of ads. He is untankable, so he's going to be dealing damage to everyone with ranged attacks. You've just got to kill the ads, and that's it, really. It's not what I'd call difficult, but like I said, it doesn't seem to be working the way it should. Anyway, let's skip forward and we can have a bash at it. What I will say in favour of this dungeon is the fact that it is extremely well paced. I never felt that we were going through too much trash. It never felt all that boring. Admittedly, there wasn't an awful lot going on, but hey. So you can see he's going to cast these storm bolts all over the place. There will also be chain lightning. You don't really have to worry about it because it doesn't do too much damage, and that's the shield you see around him, but it doesn't work. I mean, there are very few deflections. It claims that it increases spell deflection by 90%, but I don't know what the base value is to begin with. We got one deflection there, but that's the only deflection I get in this entire fight. Now, since you can't tank this guy, you can, in theory, just off-tank the adds and just beat on him, because the adds don't seem to really do anything. Bit of chain lightning, a little bit of damage here and there, but nothing that overwhelms our healer, and that's it. Disappointing? Yes. Anticlimactic? Yeah, pretty much. There's potential here, but the normal mode doesn't provide a challenge to anyone, really. The trash was particularly disappointing. I thought that we might get some difficulty there, but the CC wasn't even necessary. We were never in any trouble. Oh well, it's not like you're going to have to do this too much. Maybe run it once or twice for a bit of gear, and then you can move on to the heroic, and hopefully that'll work out a lot better. I look forward to showing you that in the not-too-distant future. My name's been Totalbiscuit, and that was the last of the normal mode 5-mans for you, the Lost City of the Tol'vir. I will see you next time.